Shamati by the Baal HaSulam. Articles 8 to 12 will be discussed in this video. Article 8. What is the difference between a shade of Kedusha and a shade of Sitra Hara?
What is the difference between a shade of Kedusha and a shade of Sitra Hara? So it is written in Song of Songs, verse 2, "Until the day breathes and the shadows flee away." We must understand what are shadows in the work and what are two shadows. The thing is that when one does not feel his providence, that he leads the world in a manner of good that doeth good, it is regarded as a shadow that hides the sun. In other words, as the corporeal shadow that hides the sun does not change the sun in any way, and the sun shines in its fullest power, so one who does not feel the existence of his providence does not include any change above. It does not induce any change above, sorry. Rather, there is no change above, as it is written, "I the Lord do not change." Instead, all the changes are in the receivers. We must observe two discernments in this shade, meaning in this concealment. And I didn't know if you wanted to go over something in that very beginning, but we have two items.
Yeah, real
Yeah.
easy. This is the idea of Kabbalah is that we're dealing with desire and pleasure, and the other side of that polarity is lack of. So we're covering how to deal usually in Kabbalah, how to deal with desires, but when there is the opposite of that a lack of light, how to deal with that, how to scrutinize that, and what to understand what that really means and what it is. So this article will go through that a little bit.
So item 1. When one still has the ability to overcome the darkness and the concealments that one feels, justify the Creator and pray to the Creator, that the Creator will open his eyes to see that all the concealments that one feels come from the Creator, meaning that the Creator does all that to a person so that one may find one's prayer and yearn to cleave unto Him. This is so because only through the suffering that one receives from Him, wishing to break free from the trouble and flee from the torments, then one does everything he can. Hence, when receiving the concealments and the affliction, one is certain to make the known cure, to do much praying that the Creator will help him and deliver him from the state he is in. In that state, one still believes in his providence. Item 2. When one comes to a state where he can no longer prevail and say that all the suffering and pains one feels are because the Creator had sent them to him so as to have a reason to ascend in degree, one comes to a state of heresy. This is because one cannot believe in his providence, and naturally, one cannot pray.
Okay, so just so we understand the intention behind this article, so because it's going to go on here, but the idea is that the Creator, we have to remember or keep in mind all the time, the Creator only bestows pleasure to the vessels, or bestows the light to the vessel, always. There's no change in the Creator whatsoever. So because our reception, or our perception of reality seems to shake back and forth in this dual idea of giving and taking light and having fullness and having lack, this has nothing to do really with the Creator. Creator's always trying to give us a full measure of light all the time. The lack comes from us. It always resides in us. So so he's saying there's two kinds of shade. The idea is when this darkness befalls us, we feel these torments in the world, where we feel empty, we lack, all the suffering that seems to come after us in the outside world. All of these things are not that the Creator is necessarily now becoming some type of dictator that has decided that he needs to, start judging us and condemning us, and we have to go back and repent for him to give us goodness. It's for us to understand that we're not in the right state, and therefore because of that, we're simply keeping ourselves outside of the merging with him, the realization of that merging, which is always abounding. It's always within us. So when we feel this way, it's really important that we scrutinize this, because the only way for us to exit this state is to rebalance ourselves. Remember that the pleasure is like a pulling. It's trying to pull us to it, and pain is trying to push us. So we have these two polarities. The only two things that Kabbalah really talks about is the two polarities, the left and right pillars, right? So we're in between this, being bounced around. Sometimes it's pleasurable and I have to recorrect myself into the center through the right intention, and sometimes it's painful and I have to recorrect myself back in balance in the center. And they both have to do with intention. So the one side is pleasure-based. How do I deal with pleasure? How do I bestow pleasure? How do I give? The other is, how do I realize that the light is always penetrating me when I feel a lack? And we have to have the right relationship. We can never blame the creator for taking the light from us. This is always an internal thing. This is because of our intention. And if we don't make a change inside within ourselves to rebalance, not that we're looking to create joy, because it's impossible really for me to have a painful situation just pretend like it's joyful, but simply taking myself out of the equation and recentering myself will allow me in that instance to remerge to a certain degree with the creator and then move forward. But as long as I stay in that state where I'm blaming or looking at the creator for putting me in this state for the wrong reasons, I keep the distance between me and the creator, and I keep myself in this suffering. And because of that, I mean, we could lead into very heavy depression, very heavy sadness, very heavy grief. And this doesn't have anything to do with the purpose of creation. So we're simply just fighting the purpose of creation, which is the vessel to receive enormous amounts of pleasure. Okay? So we're doing this. We're responsible for this to the degree that we're not understanding the relationship correctly. So this whole article is about not necessarily dealing with pleasure here, but it's dealing with what happens when I'm in lack. How do I look at it and how do I work out of it? So go ahead, Frater.
Absolutely.
Can I add something?
Yes,
Not that
please.
I'm going to go more onto the text. I like what Raz explaining, because it's really a better comprehension outside of just understanding the text. It gives you a more practical idea of what he's talking. I'm going to try to go more into the text. So the title tells me there is a shade of Dusa. There's a difference between a shade of Kedusha and a shade of Sidra. A shade is a shadow in a sense, right? So those are the two shadows that we're speaking about. So and that's what they explain after. The one that is in the Kedusha that recognize the providence of a creator. And when I'm in difficulty, I'm praying for the creator to give me, my prayer is for the creator to give me that possibility. I recognize that it comes from the creator. And I'm asking the creator to help me to overcome that difficulty. This is in a sense what later I'm going to speak about. That's a part of the Kedusha. The part that is, the second part that he's speaking about, is I see that everything God does is from the creator, but I don't want it no more. I'm not able to deal with it. Then I am forced to be able to go to the light. I'm on the second part, but I'm certainly forced to be able to recognize that there is the creator. Because I cannot, this is because one cannot believe in his providence, and naturally one cannot pray. So that's the second facet of the shadows. And from there, I think if anyone, I hope it makes it understandable and a little more just for the text for people that have a difficulty to comprehend the text, like foreigners like me. Thank you.
No, that's good.
Frater, keep going. That was great.
Guys, did
Thanks,
you have any?
Philippe.
It follows that there are two kinds of shadows, and this is the meaning of, and the shadows flee away, meaning that the shadows will flee from the world. The shade of klipa, or shell, is called another god, is sterile, and does not bear fruit. In Kedusha, sanctity, however, it is called under the shadow I delighted to sit, and its fruit was sweet to my palate. In other words, one says that all the concealments and the afflictions one feels are because the Creator has sent them these situations so that one would have a place to work above reason. When one has the strength to say that is, that the Creator causes him all that, it is to one's benefit. This means that through that one can come to the work in order to bestow, and not for oneself. At that time, one comes to realize, meaning believes that the Creator enjoys specifically this work, which is built entirely on above reason.
So the above reason means that I'm feeling terrible, but I know this sensation is being sent to, or I'm experiencing the sensation only so I can make an adjustment. It's not because I'm not trying to say that the creator is somehow beating me up and I have no reason why and I'm going to turn my back on this. I'm having a terrible life, a terrible day, a terrible moment, and I'm going to wallow in this. What I'm saying is this is given to me specifically so I can make efforts to readjust myself and balance. And because I do that, that brings contentment to the creator, because the creator specifically given me this circumstance so I can work. Because when the pleasure is being given to me, when the vessel is full, I can't do anything because I'm completely influenced by the light. I can't really work on my own. Of course you're happy. God gives you everything, right? It's like the story of Job. But when things are taken away from us, that's the time that we can actually make action. In the darkness is where we work. So we have two choices when it's dark, or the shade. We can turn away from the creator and say he condemns me, and now some kind of new God has created some evil on me, and that's the God is sterile, right? The other God. Or I can say that the creator is giving me a gift, that I can work above reason and still balance myself in bestowal toward the creator, even though I don't feel the pleasure. Because that is where I make the biggest increase in my state. I can't really do anything when I'm happy and pleasant and I'm running around singing and God's raining light on me. Of course, we're happy because everything feels good. I have pleasure. Everything's great. There's no problems. What work am I doing? But when I have the sorrow, sadness, depression, anxiety, fears, all these things that come onto me because I lack truly within the root, that all stems from lack, then this is where I have a chance to really shine, because this is where I can say it doesn't matter what state I'm in going to continue to do make my efforts. In other words, I don't have to be rewarded like a pony in order to move forward. I'm going to work regardless. And because I make this correction on my own, without the influence of the light, I merge closer to the creator because I become bestowing without being given. I try to bestow without reward, seemingly. And because of this, I move forward. So, Philippe, you want to add to that, or does that make sense?
I was just saying like what Jacques was speaking, like he was thinking like it is like a test, that God is testing us, that the creator is testing me. I think it's more an assistance. It's helping me to be able to awaken. Sometimes we need, sometimes it's like, I take that example that I don't know that my hand does not bother me. But as soon as I have a problem with it and it's painful, then as soon as it is not, I realize how it is not bothering me. So in a sense, that trouble that I have into my life, if I recognize that it is the creator sending it to me to permit me to come closer to him. Come on, growth is painful, right? An animal shed its skin, it expands. We have a difficulty when we grow. And that's what the creator is giving me those opportunity to grow. So it's not really that he's testing me, or am I connected to him? Am I thinking that all the pain, God is punishing me, like we have it, and that's what we're going to go later on too. That idea that there is another force, but there is a force that punishes, and that's not really the point. I think in Hebrew, like punishment, that's why I love Hebrew, because the language is like a chemistry. Onesh, a punishment, is to fall back, which means I'm seeing that I'm falling back. I can see that I'm falling back down, but I'm too much into my own self. I'm feeling that suffering, and this permit me to reconnect to the creator. So I hope that this makes it a little better.
Philippe, let me say that the way that we have to look at this is that the creator isn't bestowing any of this darkness in actuality. It's all created from within ourselves. Otherwise, the creator would have two sides, and it would bestow and annul itself to us, and it would have these dual personalities. If the creator is always giving and always bestowing in perfection the full strength of the light, then in a sense you could say the creator is showing me a place of work, but it's really we're creating the place of work because of our separation of attributes, right?
Okay, I see where you try. Yes, indeed. The light is always at a constant. It's only God does good for good. But because the shell does feed from it, right? My klipa, my body, my ego does need to feel, it also exists into that world, and you need to feel from that light. And its interpretation, like you said, the interpretation of my side is that it is painful. The truth, if I could look at it in total manner that it's all good, then I'd be able to understand. There's a Hasidic story. That's because in Judaism you should bless for the good as you should bless for the bad. So there is a student went to his rabbi and told him, what you mean? How can I be as much joyful and blessed on the wrong? So he sent him to Rav Zuzah. And he went to Rav Zuzah, then he went to his house, and he see the guy is very poor. He has nothing. He barely have no food. He sleep on the ground. He has barely no clothes, and he's suffering, and it's like he has all kind of pain and hardship. And even one time he had no food, and he just found a piece of bread, and he said, "Thank you God for making me hungry." So he asked him. He asked the Rav Zuzah. He asked him, the rabbi sent me to you to understand why we do a blessing on the things that are bad. And Rav Zuzah answered to him, said, I don't understand why your rabbi sent you to me, because nothing is bad for me. In a sense that's true. No, it's to be able to view it that all is good from the Creator is really that part of that holiness, to be totally connected. But I see it in a way that indeed, because my shell, my body receive it, then like you said, I'm the one interpreting it in something that is bad, but it's still coming from the Creator. It's not that it's coming from the Creator in a bad way, but it's coming to the Creator because that's where I am in my path. But I will interpret like this, and this is still good. There's still the good out of it. That's what I will think it's all about.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. I think when the vessel receives pleasure for the wrong intention, the pleasure leaves the vessel. This is an action of the vessel itself and nothing to do with the Creator. So when the pleasure leaves the vessel and we feel a lack, punishment, suffering, fear, something in our lives, it's simply because we couldn't have a merging with that light to the degree that I'm able to hold on to it and stay in peace and center and balanced position, because I'm not attracting the light correctly. And because of that, that all has to fall on the vessel itself. It has nothing to do with the Creator, because the Creator is always giving. So in that regard, which we're saying the same things, obviously, but in that regard, the Creator in this relationship is not giving me scenarios. I'm creating scenarios by my sensation. In other words, my house is burning down and I start crying and wailing because I see that the Creator is doing this to me and I have to, I don't know why. But reality truly, truly is that it's all my perception of the burning house. It has nothing to do with the Creator still bestowing the same infinite amount of light to me. But I'm rejecting that light because I failed to see that the Creator, that it's not my perception of the situation. It's actually the Creator doing something to me. So in every scenario we have, I can't hold on to that peaceful pleasure, that balance and rise spiritually by looking at the Creator and saying that either way you're doing something. I have to say that my relationship with the light is incorrect, and therefore I'm creating a lack within myself. I'm doing this because of my difference of attributes toward me and the Creator. My selfish, egoistic reception is repelling light, and it's causing me an emptiness, and it's causing me in the branch all kinds of beatings and turmoil. And so I guess we could say this both ways, because the Creator, is one and unified and everything, and it's connected to us in every way. So it's very much that we could, say these things in either direction. But the only thing that I fear is that when we ever put our finger at the Creator, even if it's good or bad, we have to understand that it's always the vessel's ability to merge. The Creator, in other words, is always reaching out to the vessel. And when the vessel makes a change in its intention, it changes the way in which it senses the light. And so because of this, we have to be ultimately responsible for this, this kind of left or right pillared activity. Because if I'm feeling bad, this has to be something I'm doing egoistically within myself in order to create this situation. Because God forbid, the Creator isn't giving me this. The Creator's trying to embrace me and lift me into it. But I'm not understanding what kind of relationship. In other words, I'm not understanding the attributes I need to adopt in order to embrace this light, hold it, and climb into it. And so, yeah, on one hand, it's learning, of course. Because when, I know I have to adjust myself, that I'm making some kind of mistake here. I'm not fulfilling the purpose of creation. But on the other hand, I can't say that the Creator did this, because then I'm pushing responsibility and saying, I just have to accept this is good. But it's not really the case. The case is I have to make some adjustments, and I have to see within myself why I'm creating this separation. Because if the creator took one step of separation toward the vessel, it would make him imperfect. It would make him non-bestowing, even for a millisecond. Even if we pulled the light back or created some kind of event that happened that was, we see as like turmoil. Well, he just sent me turmoil for a moment. He could never do that. It has to be perfected, infinite bestowing of light constantly. And my interaction up and down, left and right, centered and balanced, and all of these different ways are the way in which I adopt or reject the light based on my intention, my internal properties. And
yeah,
yeah,
I agree totally, and thanks for making that clarification, because indeed we don't want to get into the mistake that the light is constant. It's not like good, bad, or whatever. There's no attribute to it. It is, and that's what it is.
yeah, and the only reason I'm saying, Philippe, is because I see sometimes people say they drift and say, well, the creator must be doing this for some reason. And it suddenly becomes it becomes a responsibility being pushed now, where I'm forgetting that it's my relationship and I have to stay internal and I have to keep working on myself. But when I see the creators blowing up the world, I can say, well, I guess the creator just decided to kill everyone, and I just have to sit back and accept this. And that there's a real dangerous razor blade line there that we have to be very careful of. It's always, always, always our responsibility to adopt the properties of the creator, and not for the creator to somehow change its properties for us. The creator is all loving, all giving, 100% infinite all the time. And when we feel problems in the branch, out in the world or within our sensations, it's always due to our attributes not being reconciled with the creator's attributes. It's never the creator's attributes modified in any little way. It's always us. So as long as we keep that reference point, we'll always be working within ourselves, not blaming potentially, God forbid, other people or the creator or some kind of natural influences or anything else. It's always how we see it. It's always how we connect with it. And so, like I said, I mean, we can say this both ways, and you're obviously right, but I'm just saying that seems sometimes to be a point of contention for people to fall out into that external blame game, or at least it can lead there.
Totally agree. And, indeed, it's important, again, like you make it clear, it's important to understand, because if not, we're going to start telling God is this at some time and God is that at some time, and thinking he's the one, when it's really, like you said, is our perception, is we are the one receiving, and it's how we receive a degree of reception, like we learned also in test last week.
Beautiful. Okay, sorry to babble, Freda. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
No, I think that we covered it from every angle there. It's really resonating with well, Janessa's saying it's resonating with her. That's really good, Janessa. It's definitely it's singing with me internally. So, and I think it covers that a little bit more right here through to the end of the article here. So, it follows that one does not pray to the Creator that the shadows will flee from the world. Rather, one says, I see that the Creator wants me to serve him in this manner, entirely above reason. Thus, in everything that one does, one says, of course the Creator enjoys this work, so why should I care if I work in a state of concealment of the face? Because one wants to work in order to bestow, meaning that the Creator will enjoy, he has no abasement from this work, meaning a sensation that he is in a state of concealment of the face, that the Creator does not enjoy this work. Instead, one agrees to the leadership of the Creator, meaning however the Creator wants one to feel the existence of the Creator during the work, one agrees wholeheartedly. This is so because one does not consider what can please him, but considers what can please the Creator. Thus this shade brings him life. It is called, under its shadow I delighted, meaning one covets such a state where one can make some overcoming above reason. Thus, if one does not exert in a state of concealment, when there is still room to pray that the Creator will bring him closer, and he is negligent in that, hence one is sent a second concealment in which he cannot even pray, in which one cannot even pray. This is because of the sin of not exerting with all one's might to pray to the Creator. For this reason one comes to a state of such lowliness.
Let me just say, Fred, this is why we don't want, when we see people coming to each other, or you have somebody that you know come to you and tell you how bad things are, how bad things are going, how terrible they feel, and all of these things. It's not that we don't want to comfort our friends, obviously, heaven forbid. It's just that they're failing to take an essential step toward this amazing gift. They're ignoring it, and they're falling into this other state, which is to just sit back and accept this terribleness without actually taking it as what it is, which is a gift. If we can take that state of emptiness, and it comes in all kinds of forms. We can call it whatever you want. Just all kinds of terrible punishments in this life. Everything sucks. My rent's due. I got fired. My wife left me. All these things that come to us when we sit, and what the Rav is telling us, when we wallow in that, and we don't take that and put ourselves aside. And what is overcoming above reason, meaning, why should I work for the Creator when He doesn't pay me? Why should I make efforts when the Creator is treating me badly? This above reason means I make efforts to balance myself, because whether the Creator is giving me or not, or however I perceive this relationship, I have to understand that this is me. This is me out of balance. Okay? So everything I see that's nasty is happening to me for a reason. It's because I'm completely out of balance with the laws of nature. And because I'm out of balance, the cause and consequence is that things are falling apart in my life. So what the Rav is saying is, if we don't take the opportunity to rectify that within ourselves, to literally put myself aside, okay, and allow myself to make a whole prayer, which is basically, making a whole prayer means that I'm basically, not I'm sitting down saying some kind of special words in a sequence to the Creator that makes the Creator happy, and then the Creator bestows light to me again. This isn't like a prayer like this. It means that I get into a state where I'm balanced, and no matter what happens to me, it doesn't matter, because I know that I'm to stay balanced because it delights the Creator, and this is where I stay thinking about the Creator and not thinking about myself. But your house is burning down. Doesn't matter to me. Okay? And this is where I make leaps and bounds, because I'm working without payment. I'm working in the nature of bestowal now. I don't care. The Creator doesn't give you any light. Why would you move forward? Because I'm moving above reason. I know this is something that I have to do to keep myself in balance, that all these things I feel are being created by my lack of attributes to the Creator, and I have to rectify that. So this is why I was saying earlier, everything that happens to us is created from us, not from the Creator. It's not the Creator has this plan and then says, well, tomorrow night I'm going to throw these things at you, and then the next night I'm going to cause more beatings, and I'm going to cause these terrible things to happen. This is like a child that, it tells their parents, I hate you, and runs to its room and slams the door because they won't let it take the shotgun in the backyard and shoot it. It's not understanding. It's acting like a child. So I see the Creator, and I blame the Creator because all these things are happening, and I've done everything for you, and here you can't pay me back for it. This is like a totally wrong relationship. The relationship always has to be, I recenter myself. I get myself out of the situation by taking my ego out. So what's happening to you today? I have a terrible attitude. I'm in a terrible mood. Things don't feel right. I don't feel any energy. I don't feel any light. I'm not happy. All these things. I'm too self-centered here. And everything that I'm doing by not correcting this is going to reflect all out and more in the branch. It's going to start pouring out on me. And this is why we see people say, well, only bad things happen to me. I have no good luck. Okay? Because we're not following the laws of nature. So every time I bring myself back into balance, I put myself aside. Every time I feel this pulling, it's not that I'm making joy. I can't make joy. The Creator gives me light. I don't create my own light. But when I bring myself out of this, I make myself not the center of the world, and I go back to focusing on the Creator. Doesn't matter, blow me up, kill me, take everything away. Doesn't matter. I'm still centered on giving to the Creator, that's all. Then I move myself out of this state, and I make corrections in myself, in my actions, in my thoughts, in my emotions. So every time we have a bad thing happen, it's not that we want to go and tell everyone how terrible our lives are and look for support outside. Oh, God forbid, somebody come help me. Somebody come do my work for me. I'm having a terrible day. Someone come pat me on the back and hug me and make me feel better. This isn't the right attitude. The attitude is that I'm having a bad day. Good. This is a point that it's showing me I am creating within myself too much of me in this state. I need to get myself out of this state and focus on the Creator now. And if I do this work, then I take myself from this rejecting this left line beating that I feel, and I remove myself, and I keep myself in this state until the Creator comes and lifts me out. I don't know if that makes sense, but the point is that we have to understand that we make, one of the things the Rav says is we make bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, meaning we have everything flipped around. My relationship with the Creator is, if He gives me light, if I feel joy, if I get all the things in my life that I want, then I will be happy. So this is like a business arrangement. So as long as I don't have any bills, as long as nothing goes wrong with my life, as long as I have all the money I want, all the success, the best girlfriend or husband or wife, the best family, all these things, as long as I get all these things, then I'll be happy and content. Okay, so this is like holding the creator hostage. This isn't learning to be self-evoluting or evolution. This is just me demanding things, and if I don't get them, I'm like a spoiled child and I stamp my feet. So every time we go through this ebb and flow where we get filled and we get empty and we get filled and we get empty, we have to learn that when the emptiness comes, and it always does because it's the law of nature, that I know that that emptiness, that darkness, that shade is only for me to move myself back to the center. And when I get that pleasure and I want to take it for myself, I move myself back to center. And everything really is about keeping myself in the center, bestowing and always focusing on the creator. So if that, Philippe, you have anything to add to that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. So yeah, I don't take I think it's exactly what we're talking about. It's really because we have to remember, like I think what you're trying to say. We have to remember. I'm going to connect to what we learn also in test, right? That the correction is from the Kli. The Kli is the one that's going to have the attribute, the fitness of it. They're going to have a restriction. It's all for the Kli, all the attributes, all the naming and the appellation and all what's going on is according to the receiver, to how we receive. So we're the one that have to go through the correction. So anywhere, in a sense, we're facing a correction at each time when we are into those ascent and descent. But it's not the creator doing it like, okay, for you today, like you were saying, for you today, I'm gonna throw you a burn into your house, and I'm gonna see how you react. And if you come to me, then I give you a candy. And if you don't come to me, I will give you a hardship again. That's not that. Come on, that's what some of us, and sadly, a lot of us sometimes, and not not into a group, but a lot of us people that believe in religion have that attitude that there is a God is punishing me for things that I did bad. And I think this is very dangerous, that way of thinking. It's because then God become my servant. He becomes some of my Santa Claus. He become my he's the one doing things for me when I'm good, then he give me something. And when I'm not good, then you know what, he's punishing me, gonna make it hard on me. And that will be, to me, it's very dangerous, like Raz was saying, to think in this way.
I think that's a great point too. That's a great way to say it. I think the religion in general has fallen into this a little bit, to where we feel like we have to worship God. That if we worship God, we get into heaven, or we get some ticket into heaven. And the whole relationship has become so childlike, it's ridiculous. It never should a human being evolve itself that way, that it has to bribe, or has to have some kind of like special business. If I do some kind of special things and special dances, or these special operations or prayers in a certain way, that God will then accept me because I'll make God happy, and then God will give me a reward. This is nonsense. This isn't a higher thinking. This is like creating God on our level of manipulation and control. And this is how we see, we've gotten so twisted like this. As a whole world, we think that we're always trying to earn something. It's not about earning. It's about creating within myself the attributes of the creator, which is for me to get out of the way. My ego needs to settle down, and I really have to look at the whole world and say, okay, let's all of us be part of this together. And the creator is just giving. So let's all rise together by creating within ourselves that kind of attribute. And God doesn't, it's not keeping a scorecard here. We either create and evolve this way, or we don't. It's up to us. That's it. So it's not that there's some special, religion we have to try and choose from, or some kind of idea that we have to, some certain prayer sequence or some certain meditations that we have to do. It's just for us to evolve. It's for us to understand how to bring my attributes like the creator, and then I start to gain that level of spirituality. If I don't do these things, I keep myself out of this level of spirituality. And spirituality means rising to a consciousness that creates within myself peace. I get away from the ebb and flow of life, the terrible beatings and the terrible and the crazy joys and the swinging of the pendulum. I keep myself in a perfectly center, peaceful state. That's what we're trying to get to. So we have to really look at how we act in each moment, scrutinize the things that we're doing within ourselves in order to adjust. And if we can do that, like the Rob is telling us, we'll make great gains.
And just to finish up here this last little bit, however, After one comes to that state, one is then pitied from above, and again one is given an awakening from above. The same order begins anew until finally one strengthens in prayer, and the Creator hears his prayer, and brings one near, and reforms it.
I don't know if it's, I don't think they did in that one, but there is another one that have a distinction between awakening from above and awakening from below. And again, in the same, I don't want to have to repeat what we just talked before, but we have to understand it in the same concept. It's not like God suddenly is doing something, and there is always a constant of a light. And the awakening of above is when that spark is felt within me. And suddenly I'm feeling the light. I don't know, I didn't do nothing for it yet. I felt it. I felt that there is something, that there is an awareness. Suddenly I'm touched spiritually, so-called. There is something, at one moment I got into it. That's from above, what we would call the awakening from above. Awakening from below is through the prayer, through the correction. When I am seeking it, when it is the vessel that seeks to restrict and to try to get better, like we're speaking before, to diminish and to make some same and to restrict his own will to receive, so he can be closer to the will to bestow of the Creator.
Yeah, that's great. In India, they believe that the Creator, that you actually, excuse me, create that initial awakening we call awakening from above in Kabbalah. They say that what happens throughout your life, at some point you do something that gives you, unconsciously gives you some of the attributes of the Creator, and you touch or taste that divinity. And then that divinity could, because it's unconscious, you're not sure of where it came from, you call it from above. But because that you touched or tasted that divinity, suddenly you start to wake from your sleep. And you start to then say, oh, I want this back. How did I do this? And you start to work. So it's interesting. The concepts are very similar.
So item 9, or chapter 9, what are 3 things that broadens one's mind in the work? The Holy Zohar interprets what our sages had written. 3 things broaden one's mind. These are a handsome woman, a handsome abode, and handsome kalim, or vessels. It says, a handsome woman, this is the holy Shekhinah, or divinity. A handsome abode, this is one's heart. And a handsome kalim, these are one's organs. We must explain that the holy Shekhinah cannot appear in its...
Sherina.
Is it Shekhinah? Okay.
Yeah.
We must explain that the holy Shekhinah cannot appear in its true form, which is a state of grace and beauty, except when one has handsome kalim, which are the organs, elicited from the heart. This means that one must first purify one's heart to be a handsome abode by annulling the will to receive for oneself, and accustoming oneself to work where all one's actions will be only in order to bestow.
Fighter, just to stop you, so maybe, because maybe I know that Sherina is from the language of Shoren, to dwell. So it is when the light comes into the kli, its dwelling place, it's that presence that we call it the Sherina. It's another one of the appellation. We have different name and different appellation within the light. Last time we were speaking about like Or, Roser, or Urma, all those attributes, Aurelion. The Sherina is really the dwelling of that presence within the kli. It's from that Lashon. It's used a lot when we speak about God among his people, because that's that part of that dwelling, that's that representation that is understood. And Shrina, it's in female, of course. It's in a female terminology, because it is connected to that dwelling into Malhut, that is the will to receive. Do you have anything else to add on to that, Hans?
No, that's beautiful. I appreciate all the info. I think the Malhut usually represents the Shekhinah, but it can also be remember the daughter and mother are Binah and Malhut. So when Malhut, and later in Tess we'll learn, when Malhut rises to the place of Binah, which is called the raising of man, it becomes beautiful. It's trying to bestow. And because of this, the vessels illuminate with a beautiful light. They use handsome here, but it's not really a great English translation, obviously. You don't apply that male word to a female. But Oh, anyway, this will get into this in test more. Okay.
Okay. If you'd like, I could read it as beautiful.
That's it.
It's all,
I don't. Philippe knows more than
yeah.
I do about that.
So I don't have the Hebrew version underneath me, so I don't know what term they use there.
It's perfectly fine. We've got the other half of this. So from this extend handsome Kalim, meaning one's desires, called Kalim, will be clean from reception for oneself. Rather, they will be pure, discerned as bestowal. However, if the abode is not handsome, the Creator says, he and I cannot dwell in the same abode. This is because there must be equivalence of form between the light and the Kli. Hence, when one takes upon himself faith and purity, both in mind and in heart, one is imparted with a handsome woman, meaning the holy Shekhinah appears to him in a form of grace and beauty, and this broadens one's mind. In other words, through the pleasure and gladness that one feels, the holy Shekhinah appears within the organs, feeling the outer and inner Kalim. This is called broadening the mind. Obtaining that is through envy, lust, and honor, which bring one out of the world. Envy means through envy in the holy Shekhinah, regarded as zeal, in the zeal of the Lord of hosts. Honor means that one wants to increase the glory of heaven, and lust is by way of, thou hast heard the desire of the humble.
Okay, so this article really talks a lot about what we're going to learn in tests. A lot of this language he's using has to do with the filling of the vessel of the parts of Fim and how that action actually happens, and it'll go into that in great detail. But when the Kalim is in reception for oneself, called lo lishma, not for her name, that means that the Shekhinah is down in the dust, that she's fallen down into this lower state of darkness, and she's not beautiful, filled with light, gleaming and shining in purity. But when she borrows her mother's clothes, as it says in the Zohar, when they merge in properties and Malhut is driven up, meaning all of the sensations are given, they're bestowed outward to the Creator through our inner work, a new thing happens, a new level of light enters the Partsuf, a purity happens, a beautifulness happens to the princess, and she becomes filled with garments of white illumination. And because of this, knowledge flows. We see the Sfirat as Da'at, that means knowing, because this creates, without getting too far into this creates two, the mother and father, to look at each other and join forces and connect. And that illumination causes a higher knowledge to come and literally lift the Partsuf up and bring the Partsuf a closeness to the Creator that cleans and corrects the Partsuf and creates within the Partsuf a perfected sense. And that's beautiful. That's glory. That's the idea here. So there's those two states of falling to the dust down below in the darkness, which is self-reception, where the vessels are looking to just take, they just want in this little state, or the state of being more like the Creator, more beautiful and glorious and filled with light in this higher state of giving, of trying to give. And because of that, there's a drawing close to the Creator, and this brings us into a closer, higher spiritual parts of Fim. And then it's just defining the words lust, envy, and honor, because in English we look at this and we say lust. I mean, that's, we should take handsome and use sexy instead. This isn't lust like that. It means that we're trying. Thou hast heard the desire of the humble. It means that I'm lusting for a change. I'm lusting to become this different kind of state, this giving state. And everything in my desire is about changing myself. And that desire to change myself, to become something that I really don't know honestly what it is, I just want to become more like the Creator, is enough for the light to come and help me achieve it. And so really these words like envy and lust and honor, these aren't the kind of grimy, evil ways we see this. This is actually good. This is actually me desiring, using my desire in order to aim it toward adopting the principles or attributes of the all, which is a completely new way. It's the way that Solomon said that my only desire to the Creator, he told him the only desire was to be a good leader of the people, or to know how to serve his people correctly. And the Lord said, you've asked a good thing. And because of that, he gave him everything else. So this is the kind of idea that we say to God, I don't want anything from you. Just make me like you. And I want to be able to give the way you give. This is enough for the Creator to come and to allow the light to cleanse us and lift us up. So, Philippe, you want to, yeah.
Yeah, just not to add anything, but just to, for those that are interested, that relationship between the Shekhinah and us is really well represented in the Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim from King Solomon. But really, it's all that relationship. It seemed like a woman and a man having all that relationship, a sexual relationship, but it's really that relationship between us and the Shekhinah. And that's the lust, and that's why the terminology is really very appropriate in a sense, because indeed we think that lust is something that is negative, but in that concept it's extremely positive. So if you want to expand, read Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, and that will help a lot in that understanding.
Yeah, that's a great, I always point people there. It's a really great, it's a beautiful work. If you haven't read Shir HaShirim, you should read it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. And what it's talking about is these two lovers longing for each other, longing to merge together. And it's the relationship of the vessel and the light, how they play with each other, and they're hiding and they're longing in this whole relationship. It's exactly the way that we utilize, or we feel within ourselves in these degrees, is that we're kind of at one hand longing because we want, on the other hand we want to adopt properties, and we're going back and forth, and these polarities are moving us in and out of these states of correctness and incorrectness, and we're trying to learn. It's just like the light is in its perfection, just shining and giving us all everything, but because we're learning how to adopt it in different levels, we have to adjust ourselves and keep moving and kind of scrambling to understand how to adopt into higher levels of it. And so in its perfection, it just shines. It just gives 100% of an infinite light. And we simply have to learn how to make little tiny adjustments left and right in order to keep climbing. So it's always on us. It's indicative to us to keep working on ourselves, keep finding new ways to lift ourselves into this state where we can adopt more of this light within ourselves, this illumination, this knowing. And that's really the whole of Kabbalah. It's only talking about those two relationships. That's it.